So this is the book here. I mean, the book which you are following. I just now explained like the same thing, that goods like air, which are free gifts of nature and are available in unlimited quantity, are known as free goods. Now here from the book, you can get this thing, what are free goods? Okay. So what are free goods? Just now I explained two types of goods, economic goods and non-economic goods. Which goods are free? This can be your 1 mark question. Economic goods or non-economic? Non-economic goods. Anything which is just free. For example, mother's love is free. It is a non-economic good, right? Non-economic service, I rather. But okay, then let me explain it in another way. The service which is rendered by your mother and father for you on daily basis, it is a free service, non-economic good. Good here means both physical goods and intangible goods, matlab goods and services. But the service rendered by, made at your house, is it an economic good or non-economic good? It is a economic good, because the services what she is doing at your house, for that she is charging money. So free goods do not command a price. Free goods do not command a price. So these can come as one-liner questions or multiple choice questions. What are the types of goods which does not demand a price? They can give the option as economic goods, non-economic goods, free goods. So what you have to choose here, the appropriate answer, free goods, because this was given in the book. In contrast, okay, so now let me. So this is a story kind of thing. Here not much is there. You can read it. So this I've already explained to you. Yeah, here is the flow concept. I wanted to bring it to your notice because it is very important. Mark it. Actually, Nandini, this part is not for you and not for you means in the sense you don't have books, right? So I'm here referring to Rohan because it is the actual book. For when you go to school and when you start studying, you will also get these type of things, so you can mark it, right? So what is flow concept? Demand is always expressed with reference to a particular time period. For example, I told you that demand is P plus T. It is always expressed with reference to price, and it is also referred to to. I don't think so. NCRT will have this flow concept, but if you understand it, it is well and good. You can write it. No one can mark it wrong. Okay, this is an extra thing for you. So demand is a flow concept. Now, what is flow? What does it mean? Flow is any variable which is expressed per unit of time. We must always express demand as so much per period of time. For example, 200 cars per day. Like I gave you Tata Motors example, 5,000 trucks or 5,000 cars. So 5,000 production unit has to be expressed in the terms of time. What? 5,000 in a day, 5,000 in a week, or 5,000 in a month? Then only it becomes understandable, and then only it becomes a flow concept. Thus, demand does not refer to a single isolated purchase. So demand never refers to a single isolated purchase, but to a continuous flow of purchases. For example, rice. You're not making isolated purchases. You're not demanding rice as an isolated purchase. Every day you are having demand of 250 gram of rice or 200 gram of rice. Whatever grocery is coming in your house for a month, it is a flow concept because together you are purchasing it and keeping, but every day maybe 100 grams of pulses is getting cooked, 250 grams of rice is getting cooked, some part of vegetable. So every day there is demand with certain quantity. So thus, if we say that, yeah, so this is flow concept. Now just I'll stop here. I'll ask you to, if you have any doubt, yes, Rohan, tell.
Ma'am, for example, the price of rice increases. So
what? Once again.
the price of rice,
Hmm.
if it increases, will it affect the demand?
Yes, it will affect the demand. So the question what you are asking me, that comes at a later stage. We are just doing it at a very basic level. Ki what is demand, what is continuous concept, flow concept. So that does not matter. So if even if suppose we are telling that okay 200 yeah maybe if 10 liters of milk at 55 rupees per liter. So if suppose it changes also, it doesn't matter. Still the demand is there. Now the flow will be there. So what was your question? If the price increases and I stop purchasing it?
Yes.
Oh, okay, fine. So that can happen. So you stop purchasing it, that is one different thing. But in basic, demand is always a flow concept. Whenever you mention that you demand something, there will be a flow in that. Okay. Later this thing will get clear. So as for now, and as for a 2-mark answer, you have to write this whenever if it is asked, because this is a very important thing. What is flow concept? Flow is any variable. So you have to write this whole sentence as it is. Flow is any variable which is expressed per unit of time. Flow is any variable which is expressed per unit of time. We must always express demand so much as per period. For example, 200 cars per day, whatever example you want to write. Maybe 1 liter of milk per day. When we are calling it as a demand. Okay. Now we will move to the next part, which is types of demand. Shall I move ahead? Let me check if we covered everything here. Rohan, read all this part
Okay.
today. Now coming to the next part, types of demand. Okay, the demand for various goods can be classified on the basis of number of consumers of a product, nature of goods, interdependence of demand, nature of the use of product, etc. So now, what are the 5 types of demand? All these things what I just now told you, these heavy words, now you will understand when I'm going to elaborate it. So based on number of consumers, we have individual demand or market demand. Okay. So we may consider the demand for a commodity from an individual's point of view or from market point of view. Individual demand. Now, what is individual demand? Individual demand refers to the demand for a commodity by a single consumer. For example, quantity demanded by Rohan, quantity demanded by Srinija. So for you, it is individual demand. But if I say, what is the demand? Like, for example, again, going back to the milk example, suppose I am staying in an apartment where almost 20 people lives. There are 20 households. So the demand for milk is 1 liter in my household every day. So when I say that, it becomes individual demand, because individual demand is also called household demand. But if I say, what is the demand of milk of Rosewood apartment? So when I tell that, I'm including all the households which are ordering or which are demanding milk in this particular apartment. So then it becomes market demand. Understood the concept of individual and market? Yeah. So individual demand refers to the quantities of commodity that an individual consumer is willing to purchase at various prices during a given period of time. Now here your answer, Rohan, is getting, your question is getting answered. You said, what if the price changes in between? Okay? So individual consumer is willing to purchase at various prices. When I tell the word various prices, that means demand price can fluctuate. It can increase, it can decrease. And onions and tomatoes are very famous for it. We know that in a year, in a particular point of time, tomatoes price shoots up, onion prices shoots up. So you vary the demand. So when you're buying, it's for example, if you're buying 2 kgs, 2 kgs of onion per week, and if the prices have risen very badly, so maybe your demand will cut to 1 kg. There is a time in a year when corianders are sold for 5 rupees for bunches. You get this much coriander for 5 rupees and 10 rupees in winter season. And now in summers when you will go, that coriander, even for 20 rupees, you'll get this much. Demand will be there. Even if the price is changing, demand will be there. Okay. So that is why it is written here. Individual demand refers to the quantities of commodity that an individual consumer is willing to purchase at various prices during a period of time. Now see, because I'm talking about demand, both the word price and time is there in definition. Why? Because we are talking about individual demand. Now, if you merge the concept of demand and individual, you can make the formula. You can make the whole statement. है ना? So it starts with an individual demand. So instead of telling the demand refers to the quantities of commodity that we are willing to purchase at various period of time, you are including the word individual. So thus an individual demand refers to the quantity. So if you remove the word individual here, an individual consumer. So if you remove these individual word and this individual word, then it will become the definition of demand. I'm trying to explain you, point out to you how you can remember definitions. So if you just remember the definition of demand, from the definition of demand, you can derive the definition for individual demand just by adding the word individual. Is that clear? See how easy it becomes? And now when you will replace the word individual with market, what will it become? Market demand. Got it? So another name for individual demand is household demand. Okay. Individual demand is also called household demand in economics. For example, the quantity of milk purchased per day by your mother is individual demand for milk. But the quantity of milk purchased in the whole locality or in the whole apartment or the residential area wherever you are staying, that becomes market demand. So what is market demand? The sum total of demand by all the individuals are known as market demand. Okay, this is easy definition, but you don't have to write this definition when if so in examination, if they ask you what is market demand. So don't write this definition. The sum total of demand of all the household is known as market demand. You have to write this definition, which is given in black. And there is where you lose the marks. Instead of getting 2 marks, you will get 1 mark if you write this thing. The sum total of demand by all individuals are known as market demand. You have to write this because the examiner here is expecting you to understand both market as well as demand. So you will write, thus the market demand refers to the total quantities. So here instead of writing individual, you will write the word total, because when we talk about market, it is about total. Okay. So thus market demand refers to the total quantities of commodity that all households. So here the word, the second time individual was there, the second individual you will get converted into all households that are willing to buy at various prices during given period of time. For example, the total quantity of milk which all the total quantity of milk which all the buyers are willing to pay at a given price per day over any other period of time. So this is the flow concept which is coming here. Any period of time, which is week, month, whatever. So when I say that, what is the total demand of my apartment, Rosewood? So it will always refer to a period of time, whether I'm mentioning the total period of time for a day or a week or a month. If we do not mention the period, then it becomes useless. Now coming to the next concept. So any doubt here? Shall I proceed? Please kindly respond.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, where is Anandini? I don't see her.
Ma'am,
Okay, she's very quiet today.
I answered, ma'am.
Acha, no problem. Now next is ex ante and ex post demand. Okay. So what is ex ante and what is ex post demand? Ex ante demand refers to the amount of goods that a consumers want to or are willing to buy during a particular period of time. It is just a planned demand or a desired amount of demand. And ex post demand, on other hand, refers to the amount of goods that the consumers actually purchase during a specific period. It is the amount of the goods actually bought. So, here, basically just understand, ante means plan, that I am planning to purchase. For example, next month, I am planning to purchase 10 kgs of rice. It is planned. But when I go and buy in the grocery shop, maybe the prices have gone up. And instead of buying 10 kgs of rice, I buy only 8 kgs of rice. 8 kgs of rice. So what was my ex ante demand? In my example, how much quantity of rice? 10 kgs. 10 kgs was ex ante demand. My plan. I planned to buy 10 kgs. But how much I actually purchased? 8 kgs. So 8 kgs becomes my ex post demand. Now, after giving this example, once again, I'm reading it out. Ex ante demand refers to the amount of goods that consumers want or are willing to buy during a particular period of time. It is planned or desired amount of demand. Whereas ex post demand, on the other hand, refers to the amount of goods that the consumers actually purchase during a specific period of time. So ante is just a plan and post is your actual action. So ex post demand is the amount of goods which are actually bought. The amount of goods actually bought is may not be the same as the amount that the consumers desire to purchase. For example, it may also happen. The other factor is I would have bought 8 kgs of rice not because the price would have gone up. It might happen that if I go to that grocery shop and the rice which I want to purchase, maybe only 8 kgs are there in the shop. Okay, now just giving you a very real example. Recently, on 19th March or 18th March, 19th March was my son's birthday. So 18th March, we went to stationery shop because in his school, chocolate distributions are not allowed. So they told that you can, like generally we have a practice here that the child who celebrates their birthday, they distribute chocolates on their birthday. So the teacher told, no, chocolate distribution is not allowed. If you want, you can, distribute pencil, scale, eraser, whatever, stationery. So we went to the shop and his class strength is 55. So we thought that we'll buy that crayon set, which comes for that 15 rupees, DOMS crayon set. So we went to where we went to the shop. Now listen to the story very clearly. I am going to ask you example. So we went to the shop and just mark the quantities also, which I'm telling you. So how many number of students were there in his class? 55. So I wanted 55 crayons that day. But I went to the shop, that stationery shop. I got only 20 crayon set from his shop. So I purchased only 20. Now, what was my ex ante demand?
55.
55 was my ante demand because I planned to purchase 55. But what was my ex post demand?
20.
20. So then I moved again to another shop and I purchased the remaining 35 crayons. So my demand got fulfilled. But I hope you understood with reference to the first shop, you understood. Okay, second shop, I went with the planning. Now in second shop, my ex ante and ex post demand is same. because I had already purchased 20. So how much was remaining? 35 was remaining. So for the second shop, my planning, so when I go to the second shop there, my plan was to buy 35 crayons. I bought 35 crayons. So it's not like that there will be always a difference between ante and post. Right? It can be same. Is this concept very clear with the example I gave?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So if the commodity is not available in adequate quantity, then the quantity actually purchased, that is the ex post demand, will be less than the quantity that the consumers desire to purchase. That is ex ante demand. Thus, consumers may end up buying more or lesser quantity of goods that they had planned. So I might think, okay, here just deviating the example a bit, instead of purchasing 55, I think, okay, let's buy 60, make it round off. So I would have planned 55 and I go to the shop and I think, okay, why not just five children are there in my apartment also. Why not distribute to those 5 children also, apart from the classroom friends. So I went with the mindset that I will purchase 55. But there I got this idea in my mind that I should buy, but actually I purchased 60, thinking that, okay, 5 more children I'll give. So again, there is a difference. So your ex and ex post demand can be either less, either more, or it can be equal. Okay. In real life situation, have you ever encountered this, that you have planned something else and you have purchased some other quantity? Have you done this thing?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Generally with food items, you would have planned to eat maybe of 20 rupees pani puri and you would have had 30 rupees ka pani puri. It happens, right? So that's the thing. I'm just naming food. You will be like thinking, why, ma'am, during studies you're telling noodles and pani puri and stuff. Okay, don't worry. Immediately after class, you will have dinner only. So that's okay. Now, next is joint demand. What is joint demand? So the name itself explains you joint. Now, the best example of joint demand I can give you is mobile phone and internet. Yes or no? Will you have a smartphone in today's age? Will you have a device or a smart device or a smartphone, laptop, PC or mobile without internet?
No, ma'am.
No, no one will have. But yes, 10 years back or maybe 5 years back, it was not a joint demand. So any two things which are demanded together is called joint demand. For example, this is a AC remote here in my hand. Can you say can you tell me what is the joint demand here with it?
Air conditioner.
Air conditioner is the joint demand with it. If I remove this remote, can you see something inside?
Yes, ma'am. Battery.
What is that?
Battery.
So you understood the concept of joint demand.
Yes, ma'am.
Any two things which are demanded, which has to be demanded together, that is joint demand. When you want to have your morning tea or coffee, what is the joint demand there? Ingredient. You need to have milk, you need to have sugar. And then you need to have either tea or coffee to make it. Not deviating from the fact that, okay, ma'am, no, ma'am, I can have lemon tea now. I don't need milk. I'm not having that example. So milk, tea or coffee. Okay. So for example, cars and petrol, or cars, if it is an electric car, then car and electricity. Butter and bread, milk and sugar are those goods which are used together. The demand for the goods having joint demand is changes simultaneously. Now, when you are asked in exam the types of goods, remember first you have to define it. You have to give example. And now from here, the joint demand, derived demand, and the composite demand. These three demands, you have to also give an example key. If price rises, what happens to the quantity? So this part. So for example, an increase in the demand for cars leads to simultaneously increase in the demand of petrol. So imagine in India, if in India in total, there are 1 crores car, just an example, 1 crores car in 2023. And the demand is forecasted to just double up in 2024. So from 1 crore, the demand is going to move to 2 crores car, 2 crore car. Now, what will happen to the petrol price? Will it increase or decrease? Not petrol price. What will happen to the demand of petrol? Is it going to increase or decrease?
It will increase.
It will increase. If how much right now 1 crore cars are running, it is demanding a specific diesel or petrol. But if I just double up the cars to 2 crores, the demand for petrol is for sure going to increase. Okay. So what will happen to the price and quantity demanded? In case of joint demand, a rise in price of one good leads to fall in the demand for other good and vice versa. For example, rise in price of cars will lead to not only the fall in the demand for cars, but also in fall in the demand for petrol. Now, this is one of the disadvantage. In case of joint demands, what is the impact of price? Like just now Rohan had asked me one doubt that what if, ma'am, the price increases? Price increases when the price increases, the demand generally falls. So here, in the case of joint demand, remember one thing that in joint demand, there is always a direct relationship between there is always an indirect relationship between the price and quantity demanded. What does indirect or inverse relationship means? That when the price of one commodity goes up, when the price of petrol, when the price of cars goes up, then the demand for petrol will fall. How the demand for petrol will fall? Because then no one will be purchasing the cars, or the cars purchased will be less. So if cars purchased are less, then petrol prices will also fall. So in case of joint demand, a rise in the price of one good will lead to fall in the demand for other good and vice versa. So similarly, if the prices of petrol goes up, then people will not be willing to buy cars. If the price of sugar rises, then people will consume less of tea. Demand of milk will become less. Okay, let's imagine now the price of sugar is 50 per kg. And tomorrow something happens and, in UP, all the sugarcane khet gets burnt off. Because Uttar Pradesh is the biggest producer of sugarcane. And there's a scarcity of sugar, and India has to start importing sugar from other countries. And from 50 rupees, it becomes 200 rupees overnight. People will start consuming less of tea, or people will just not consume tea, because tea is something, or coffee is something which every Indian household demands, especially the female, every morning. Okay. So next is derived demand. Okay, is this clear? Joint demand. Can I move ahead?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, what is derived demand? The name itself is derived. You would have done derivation in maths, right? Derived. And even the English word of derive means you are deriving something from me, like you're deriving knowledge from me. What I am doing, I'm teaching, and you're deriving knowledge. So derived demand means the demand for a commodity that arises because of the demand of some other commodity. So the demand for that commodity is coming because of the demand of some other commodity, not because of that commodity. So for an example, can you think of some example? Before I show you, can you think of some example?
Well, if I have purchased a mobile phone,
Hmm.
my demand for the charger will increase because I need charger.
No. Again, here you are getting confused with the concept. That is joint demand. You will never purchase charger separately. It will always be a joint demand, because a mobile phone can never come without a charger.
Yes.
Okay. Now, here there are some keywords of how you are going to remember it. Good that you had this, for instance, demand for steel, bricks, and cement and stones goods, etc., is a derived one. For example, in just near my residential area, 100 steps away, there is a new residential area coming up. So in real estate business, when a new residential area is coming up, so there is demand for apartments. So the demand for apartments will lead to automatic increase in demand for the related goods. Apartments will not just come on its own, right? To construct a house, you will have to have all these things: steel, bricks, cements, wood, etc. So now steel and also the labor. So the demand for steel, bricks, wood, etc. is a derived demand of the actual demand of apartments. Okay. So here, derived demand generally relates to the demand for factors of production. Now, what is factors of production? Factors of production is your land, labor, capital, and entrepreneur. Factors of production, those who produce it. Like whenever there is a production activity or manufacturing activity, there is someone who has to produce it, right? It has to be a human being or it has to be a machinery. And for every production, you need land. Every production you need land. Now, where I'm sitting, it is on a land. Where you are sitting, it is on a land. So you need land, you need labor, you need capital, you need money, and you need entrepreneurs. You need to have a person who is making decisions to do it. So here you are going to now understand the difference. So whenever derived demand comes, this is your key point which you have to remember. I have marked it in red. Demand for factors of production such as labor is derived from the demand of the goods which are produced with the factors of production. Okay. So if there is a demand for maids in the society, because new houses, new apartments or new apartments are getting built up. So the more apartments will come, the more labor is going to get demanded for cooking and cleaning. So now the demand for maid is a derived demand because of the new society coming up. Okay, so this is how you're going to differentiate and understand what is the difference between derived demand and joint demand. Just because the house has come up, that doesn't mean with house you're, see, whenever you go and purchase a house, do you purchase house and maid together? No, that is not a joint demand. It is not necessary to purchase a house with a maid. So it's a derived demand. I purchased a house, I'm staying here. Now I need a support staff. So that is the derived demand. Now coming to composite demand. So here the keyword is multiple. So demand for goods which have multiple uses is called composite demand. For example, milk. What are the items which you can make out of milk? Tell me fast. The meeting is going to end in 5 minutes. I give you milk. Paneer. Cheese.
Falco.
Huh?
Falco. Ghee.
Ghee.
Falco.
What is that? I'm not able to understand.
Kova. And Kova.
Khoa. Okay. Khoa. Fine. Khoa. You can make so many things out of milk. You can make sweets, you can make ghee, you can make cheese, you can make butter, you can make curd. So demand for goods that have multiple uses is called composite demand. For example, the demand for steel. Now, even for steel is also composite demand, because out of steel you can make cars, you can make trucks, you can make rods, whatever you want. That it is a raw material which can get converted into whatever form they want. So for example, the demand for steel arises from various uses like steel, such as steel in making utensils, bus, bodies, rooms, coolers, etc., and so on. So any product which can have multiple demand, which can get converted into multiple uses, that is called composite demand. Is that clear? Joint, you're demanding it together. Derived, the keyword is factors of production. And composite, the keyword is multiple uses. Then, thus a commodity is said to have a composite demand when it can be put to use several alternative uses. Several alternative uses is multiple uses, when you can use that same thing for multiple uses. Okay. Moreover, now what will happen to the price and quantity when the price rises? Now, when the price of milk rises, you are going to use milk only for necessary things, not for unnecessary things. Like if your price of milk rises, you will only use milk maybe just to consume it in the raw form, just to drink it. You are not going to make curd, or you're not going to make butter and ghee out of it. Okay. So moreover, an increase in demand for the product in one will decrease its availability for another use. Because it has multiple uses, if the price of milk rises, you are going to use it only for necessary commodity, necessary use, the most urgent use. Like for example, when the price of onion rises, your mother will stop giving you onion on salads. She will tell, don't waste onion, it is too costly. She will use it only for cooking it, vegetables. You will not get salads. Okay. Moreover, an increase in demand for the product in one use decreases its availability for another use. For example, an increase in demand for electricity for domestic use will reduce the availability of electricity for commercial use. You can just continue with the example of milk. You need not have steel and electricity, just very basic example. So you will use milk only for drinking it, or just for making tea and coffee, but not for making paneer and cheese. Is that fine? So what are the five types of demand? Just tell me quickly. Number one, individual and market demand. Number two, ex ante and ex post demand. Number three, joint demand. Number four,
Derived demand,
derived demand. Number five,
composite demand.
composite demand. Now let's have the keywords. Individual demand means commodity or a demand by a particular individual or a household. Market demand, demand by all households. In total, the keyword here, the keyword there was total demand. Ex ante, ante is which is planned, the demand which is planned. And post is your actual purchase. The next is your joint demand. Joint demand, when you're demanding two or more goods together, which are jointly demanded together. You cannot, you will not, if you have to buy mobile, you will not just go buy charger and come. You have to buy mobile and charger. If you have to buy mobile, you will not just buy mobile, you will buy charger. If I have to buy AC, I will purchase remote. I will not buy the AC without remote. Even if they tell me that if you don't take the remote, I will give it to you for 1000 rupees less. I will not be able to operate the AC. Okay. Then the next one is derived demand. Derived demand, remember, you have to use the word factors of production. This is an important key thing. Derived demand generally relates to demand for factors of production. You can remember the example of, house construction, anything. For every topic you are studying, just make one example at the time of studying only, and write it there in the book or notes, so that in the exam you quote that example, and don't please don't make it a very funny example. While explaining, I give funny examples so that you understand the concept, but in examination, don't write those funny concepts, write realistic thing. Otherwise, the teacher will laugh in the staff room, and she will read the papers to other teachers also, and plus you will not get the marks also. Then you have composite demand. Composite demand is demand for goods that have multiple uses. So when the word multiple uses come, why I'm concentrating on these important terminologies, because these are important for your multiple choice questions also. They can give the word multiple uses, and they can ask you like a demand for goods that have multiple uses is called derived demand, joint demand, composite demand. So you must be able to identify it. So one particular concept can be looked from various different ways, and it can be asked. So let's stop here. Yeah, Rohan, tell me.
No, ma'am, I'm still confused in derived demand. Actually, one example came in my mind. Like if I
Hmm.
purchase milk, the demand for milk products will increase, like paneer, ghee, etc. But those come under this composite demand. So what can be an actual example of derived demand?
Sorry, I actually did not get your whole question once again. Can you repeat?
For derived demand, one example came in my mind. Like if I purchase milk,
Hmm.
so demand for making various milk products like
Hmm.
paneer, ghee, etc.
Hmm.
Like the demand will increase for them. But making of paneer, ghee, like it is of multiple use, milk is for multiple use, so
Hmm. Hmm.
that comes under composite demand.
Hmm.
Yeah. So what can be the actual example of derived demand? Like I'm still confused.
Okay, so giving this example of milk only, fine. Now, if suppose here, remember the first key thing you have to understand in derived demand is factors of production. Okay, so if suppose you are if you're opening a restaurant, and not a restaurant, you are opening a milk outlet. Okay, you are opening a milk outlet. For that milk outlet, milk becomes your derived demand. But multiple uses depends upon how you are using it. So that same milk example, you can give it in different forms. Remember one thing, don't get confused. Derived demand, whenever we talk about factors of production. Land, labor, capital, or entrepreneur. You might get confused between joint demand and composite demand, but derived demand is separate. It relates only to the demand of factors of production, land, labor, capital, and entrepreneur. You're opening a restaurant, so that you will demand labor to operate that restaurant. So labor is a derived demand of restaurant. Got it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So yeah, it's going